Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christy with Van On Company. It's Thursday, June 30th. I'm going to go over the markets with you for the day. So today was the big crop report here out of USDA. We got planting numbers and then quarterly stocks coming out of this report. So it did not disappoint. You did have some big moves into these markets today, with corn down about 11 to 13 cents. Beans actually up about 40 to 44 cents there. And then wheat about a penny to 3 pennies higher coming into the day. And what you had was what shocked the market probably the most out of all the numbers was the fact that you did increase corn acres to 94.1 million acres planted. Everyone was really leaning towards a slight decrease into corn acres after that 93.6 that we saw in March. So you were thinking maybe high 92, so 92.8, 92.9 is really what expectations were, and you came in here and increased it to 94.1. So big increase from last year's planting number on corn. Also, you saw an increase in planting numbers onto soybeans. So soybeans came in at 83.7. That is a 1.5 million acre increase from last March's report. This was expected. Actually, the estimate was just slightly higher than this, but really in line with expectations that you were going to see that increase here. And you had some small increases really across the board. Also, all wheat came in at 1.2 million acres higher. And so what you did was, when you put those all together, you saw an increase here of pretty much the prevent plant we had last year. So what they're saying is that there just wasn't much for prevent plant acres, and they built those into that. So higher acre numbers. Quarterly stocks report came in. That was high on corn. That was expected to be high there, but it's a little bit more than it was expected. And then soybeans actually a bit higher, about 40 million bushel higher than expected as far as those quarterly stocks go. And then wheat, this is actually the end of wheat, so it's 981. That solidifies the carryout level for old crop wheat there. One thing to note is that you got the higher bean number as acre wise. It was a little bit below expectations, but not much. And actually a higher quarterly stocks number than expected, but you were able to rally this market. So maybe this market's coming in here and saying we're not taking out that weather premium quite yet into this market. We have a lot of time left. They're calling for heat in August. We know we need these rains. So maybe that's why you saw beans be able to separate themselves. But overall, a lot of this information came into this report, really actually a bearish report all around for all the commodities. Over into the meat market, slightly higher in live cattle and feeder cattle, probably due to the weaker grains in corn. And then meats, lean hogs were mixed. Outside markets didn't do a whole lot. Dollar was up slightly. Crude was down just over $1, and then the Dow was up there. Moving forward, what we're going to look at now that you get through this, people are going to start trying to plug those numbers in and get an idea of carryout levels. You've heard some 2.2, 2.3 billion bushel carryout level for corn. And then, really you have mixed reactions on what you're going to get for a carryout level coming forward into the bean market. We're going to get that here in about 2 weeks. Between now and then, though, you're really going to be driven off these weather markets. So 6 to 10, 8 to 14 day forecast is above average heat wise. They do have precip in there as well, so you're really going to be dependent on whether or not you get those precips and if you think that precipitation total is enough. There's some big rains coming for really a majority of the eastern corn belt, southern areas through Missouri, Nebraska even. Really it cuts off at Iowa, so anything north of that, Iowa, Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota aren't going to get those rains, but those are some big totals on the 5-day total. You've seen over 6 inches for Missouri areas. So you're going to have tomorrow's trade and then a long weekend, and whether or not we get those rains is really going to drive where trade goes from there. And then moving forward, as long as the heat's around it, but we got to keep getting those rains, otherwise you're going to build that weather premium back into the corn market here. I do have to close with the disclaimer: trading in futures and options involves risk. Loss may not be suitable for all producers. Have a great day.